Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Annie Leib, and we are bringing you the second episode of Something New Live, The Why. I have two very important co-hosts today that I wanted to introduce. The first one is our founder and CEO of Something New, the amazing talent nerd, Scott MacGregor. How are you?
Yes, thank you. I'm great.
He's making it happen today.
And I'm making it happen.
He is always. And something news talent strategist ninja, Ali Fischer. How are you, girlfriend?
Hi, everybody. Let me get in frame.
What's up, Ali?
Hi,
so
everybody.
we're here for some great conversation today about something new and our why. And we wanted to talk about something specific. Now, I have a specific t-shirt on for a reason, and it is the answer, if you can see it here. The answer is yes, Allen Iverson, but we're not here to talk about Allen Iverson today. We're here to talk about when you have no talent strategy or very little talent strategy, or you're not sure what talent strategy is, we have the answer, and that is SomethingNew Labs.
We do.
So we're going to talk to you a little bit about it today. Scott, I would love for you to start and sort of tell us how it began, and a little bit about why SomethingNew Labs began, and then Ali, jump in and let's just have a conversation.
Yeah. That was a great tie-in with the shirt. And just for anybody who is on listening to this is so unscripted that literally Annie says, this is our prep. Come on at 10 after 12. Mm-hmm. That was literally our entire prep.
Yeah. So there's no discussion.
I think the question is, how did this all start? It started with my career as a CRO, dealing with recruiters. Nobody was teaching me anything. And I thought, these are the people that think about talent all day. Why aren't they teaching me best practices? So I knew that talent strategy ultimately makes or breaks any company. So when we started Something New, we created SomethingNew Labs to really help companies understand all the fundamentals behind talent acquisition, onboarding, and retention. And the theory behind it was our recruiting business is fantastic, and we do that in a very different way, but that's like giving somebody a fish. And we really felt like the overall value of teaching somebody to fish gives you long-term sustainability. So that's kind of the genesis of how SomethingNew Labs started, and it's a wildly popular advisory service, and you guys are absolutely killing it with it. So yeah, let's talk more.
So Ali, you are my partner in crime when it comes to Labs advisory service. Talk to me about what it means to you and why it's important to you.
Yeah, so I think we all turn pain into a purpose at some point in our lives. And that's a bit of what this is for me. I mean, this is coined the why, right? So I'll start with a very abridged version of my why, which is really to embolden humans to find and own their voice. And that's so that we can each live and lead a life with confidence and conviction. And that's at work and at home and in your community. And that could be through speaking out to help humanize your workplace, to speak out about mental wellness. I mean, something that's near and dear to me is helping fellow survivors of domestic abuse. I mean, we all have things that have happened to us over the course of our lives, whether it was working in a toxic environment, coming out of a horrible relationship, whatever it might be. And I've experienced all of those things, whether it was at work or at home. And having employees have a better work experience from the very first moment that they have those interactions with their potential future employer is laying that foundation for that employee's view and their ultimate longevity at a company. It doesn't begin when their butt is in a seat. And I think that that's our whole goal, is to really take it back to the very beginning, which is ultimately the candidate experience. It is all those very first touch points, the fundamentals, the foundation, as we say. it can't be this haphazard, well, we'll figure it out when we hire them, or we'll figure it out when they first start actually working for us. It really needs to be an intentional thought process,
Right.
and a strategy, which is what we have put in place, which is ultimately to help the employee and to help the organization in synergy. One doesn't work well without the other.
Phenomenal explanation, and weaving it into your why personally and professionally. My son's calling because he knows that I find that so relatable to me, because much of the reason that I joined the Something New organization is because my why is to help people find and uncover their most authentic selves, and how we can do that. And it's interwoven with the mission of Something New is, helping people and organizations find sort of their foundation and what makes them up, their core values, and what their mission is, and how that can be applied to their talent strategy. So I find that very relatable, what you said. And
maybe that's why we get along so well.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why we get along so well.
I know, it's true. And what I want to know is how Scott finds these people. Our team is so aligned with our personal missions. And this is part of the reason I wanted this podcast to even begin, was because, our personal whys are so interwoven with that of Something New. And it's kind of unbelievable that we all want to do the same thing and have these missions that are each personal to ourselves, but at the same time, we apply them professionally as well. I don't know if, Scott, do you put ads in the paper? How do you find all these people that are
he goes through his Rolodex.
I think it's like a mosquito thing. They're attracted to the light. I think people honestly are starving for authenticity and transparency and doing good things, and being able to build something special. It's just been unbelievable to be able to work with you guys and the entire team at Something New. So it's fun to grow with like-minded people, and it is scary how well. We're all so different, but we're all at our core so unbelievably aligned, and I think so passionate about talent strategy, because it improves people's lives. That's really what it does. Does it drive revenue? 100%. It is the number one thing that can drive your revenue. But is it also just a much better way to live and work? 1,000%.
Right. And
it's logical, we say, right?
Yeah. Isn't that what, we're trying to do? Improve our lives, to live a quality of life that is, better than it is right now. And so many companies are really suffering in that regard, where they're not going back to their roots and their foundations and figuring out what is really their authentic true selves. What does that mean to them? And that's sort of where we come in. And I would love for Ali to sort of, because you've been such a big part of figuring out exactly what Something New Labs is and what that means to, applying it to companies. If you wouldn't mind going into that would be great. Just dig a little deeper into labs.
Yeah, sure. So we could talk about this all day, right?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
We often do.
As we often do, yeah. So we have 3 pillars at Labs. It's talent acquisition and onboarding and retention. And within those 3 are about 60 modules, which I guess at a glance can be a little overwhelming. But it is no rock unturned. We have taken the deepest dive into everything that an organization needs, that all the key stakeholders need. And we're not focusing just on human resources or an internal talent acquisition team, or let's say an external third-party company that you might be working with, like a recruiting firm, like what we have as well. We're talking department heads and your executive level and your hiring managers. It touches everybody and ultimately meets them where they're at. So we have an understanding that not every company is going to require the same thing at the same time. And we're dealing a lot with startups, we're dealing a lot with small businesses, and they're not all going to have the exact same requirements at the exact same time.
Right.
So the very first thing that we do is take an audit of what you need today. So, I mean, ideally, we have a process that we like to follow. And we like to start it at talent acquisition, with the actual interviewing process. What does that look like? Are you being intentional with your process? Are you providing feedback? Are you applying the proper people that are qualified to do the actual interviewing? What's your feedback cycle look like? Are you tracking metrics? I mean, there's about 20 things in each of these, 20 things, give or take, in each of the 3 pillars. But if you don't need the talent acquisition piece and you've, let's say, done some hiring and you've ramped up and you're in the onboarding stage, which again, none of them onto themselves is less important than the entirety.
Yes.
You can't isolate one and be successful. And that's why we've tackled it the way that we've tackled it. You can't have phenomenal hiring processes and then drop the ball when they finally start and not have an onboarding process to train them and develop them so that they ultimately stay.
Ali, don't you think that when we're out there like doing business with companies, like, aren't we finding that they just don't have a strategy? There's just no strategy in place. No,
and I think it's based in intention, and sometimes it's lack of education. You don't know what you don't know. We say this too, right? You don't know what you're missing. You think that you have it right. You think that you're doing the right things, that you have a great job description out there, that you're being intentional with the processes that you put in place, with how you're managing and communicating with your candidates. But there are things that are missing, integral things that are missing to create the best candidate experience and then ultimately the best employee experience. And then again, that lays over into how you onboard them, how you train them, how you develop them, how you provide feedback, how you're setting up your KPIs for your employees, how you offboard. Most people don't even know what offboarding is. They think it's an exit strategy. How do you handle exit interviews? That's not offboarding. Offboarding is reputation management. It's, creating relationships with your employees on an ongoing basis, whether they've quit or whether you've laid them off, whether you're downsizing, no matter what the circumstance. I mean, it's leading with intention from the very earliest stages of communication with the people that you're interacting with. And we go through all of that with the people, the companies that we talk to.
I want you to comment on this, Ali. That's why I brought up the comment. Sam Miller said, I agree with you all. I see the craving for individuals wanting to connect and support every time I respond to a workplace trauma. So I just want you to sort of talk about that connection that people are craving. And Scott, feel free to jump in. Not just the me and Ali show, but yeah.
I know. I could just.
Work connection. Yeah. I mean, human connection. It's not just workplace. Human connection is the cornerstone of everything. And if you've come from a toxic work environment, it's even more heightened. If you've come from an environment where you don't feel valued, you don't feel like you have a voice, you've started at a company and they ignore you, your manager is on vacation, or let's say even they think that they have an intentional onboarding process and they have something that goes on for like a month and then they forget about you. Onboarding is not a 2-week or a 4-week or even a 3-month process. It's an ongoing training and development process. Feedback is part of that as well. So people crave connection in life. It doesn't just go away the moment you go to work. I mean, we spend more time at work than we spend with our families in some cases, right?
Right. So putting some of these things in place, talk to me about what that does for a company. So like this all sounds great, right? Oh yeah, talent strategy. First of all, I would love to hear about like what you guys think because plenty of companies have said, we don't have time for that. That's just not something we have time for right now. So touch on that first, and then I'll get to my second question.
Do you want to take that one, Scott? I mean, the ROI on this is just
mind-blowing.
Yeah, the ROI is through the roof. So, why do people do this? It is not actually for this warm, fuzzy kind of kumbaya, type of thing.
Don't be mistaken.
This is very, very intentionally designed to help companies grow their revenues tremendously. The way that you grow your revenue is through your people. It's through your talent strategy. If you have a great talent strategy, if you have great people, your chances of achieving great things financially are enhanced, 100-fold.
What you always say so well, Scott, is about what are the byproducts of some of this? I mean, how is it? There is a kumbaya element in it that
there is. So if you have a great talent strategy, if you do talent acquisition extremely well, if you onboard, at a world-class level, and if you have wonderful retention, guess what the byproduct of that is?
Tell me.
You are going to have a phenomenal culture. You are going to have that warm, fuzzy feeling that sometimes this gets mistaken for. That is the byproduct. That's what happens when you nail talent acquisition, onboarding, and retention. And by the way, you're going to be wildly successful financially.
So our people over everything is that's what it comes down to. When we say that, that's exactly what we mean, right? I mean, okay. Ali,
don't mistake people. We joke internally that people know us as the people over everything team, something new. Yeah. But don't mistake it for weakness. It's like when people say vulnerability is not a weakness in leadership. It is definitely not. Compassion is not a weakness in leadership. Caring about your people is not a weakness for an organization. Your products don't make themselves.
Yep.
Your products, your innovation, your clients are all overseen and developed and designed and cultivated by people.
Yes.
And those people start as candidates ultimately. And your brand is dictated by how you interact with those people. The statistics are staggering. The employees know within the first day whether they're going to stay or leave within the first 6 months, just by how you've treated them prior to the actual hiring, to the offer. But there are a lot of employees that walk out on the first day because it's just an embarrassment.
Or they continue to look for other jobs, or they say yes to another offer, and they're like, I made a mistake. It's like just being treated like a number. And it really all comes down to this, like what we're talking about, the strategy and putting people first. And I guess I want to talk about the amount of time that companies, if they say we're just too bogged down, we don't have time to start with any sort of talent strategy right now. What would your response?
Well, people have time to spend. I mean, I don't know what the average time is for a recruiting firm, for instance, but it's potentially 3 months, right, on average-ish, to really invest in hiring a great candidate. Mm-hmm. I mean, if you're doing it internally, maybe it's more. So you're investing, let's say, on average, 3 months to place a candidate, let alone the cost, and then you're investing up to 3 to 6 months to actually onboard and assimilate that candidate, which is not just the person itself, it's the team, the entire team that it takes, all the department heads, all the training, all the costs to get that person up and running. So you've spent 9 months to hire one candidate, to not invest in them properly.
Right.
It's and you're losing that salary, obviously, by not having them be productive because they're not really up and running for quite some time. So there's a huge cost.
I think one of the things that has to happen is, CEOs, founders, leaders need to really audit, where am I spending my time, and why do I feel like I don't have time? Because sometimes it's you're evaluating a new software, but if you lay new software, I don't care what its capability is, on top of a weak foundation, meaning people that aren't going to be able to execute on the value that software can bring you, you're wasting your money. You're throwing your money out the window. So everything starts with people. And I think it's just really leaders auditing, where am I spending my time, and realizing the two main things that we talk about all the time. What is a company's number one expense? Every company under the sun, their number one expense is labor. What is labor? Labor is people. So it's your number one expense. That sounds pretty important. Maybe we should spend some time on that. And what's the number one predictor that will lead you to success or failure. It's your people. Yet when you audit the 2,000 meetings a year, which is the average that a CEO spends, 2,000 meetings a year, how many of those meetings are around talent strategy? The answer is very few. Mm-hmm. That's why companies struggle so much to attract great talent, to get them up to speed quickly, and to retain those great employees. They're just not talking about this stuff. Yep. It's so vital. You have to invest the time to start having the conversations so that you can build that foundation that you can grow off of.
This is an internal debate we have too, right? I mean, why is that? I mean, I think that product is seen as a greater tangible, talking about a new SaaS program or talking about new technology or, laying over that technology on top of your people as a Band-Aid. Those are easier things to touch and feel. It's like the new shiny object. Talking about your people is, I don't know if it's seen as an intangible, but it really is the most important thing. It can't be overlooked. It's not a problem that's going to go away by just ignoring it. It just festers.
Yeah, and people don't know where to start. They don't really know where to start. How do we tackle this? How do we tackle talent acquisition? Or people think, well, HR, no, they've got that. They've got that. Yeah. And the truth is, that's not really true. We work with a ton of HR leaders that welcome, getting up to speed with best practices in all these different disciplines, because ultimately it makes them so much stronger and more effective.
So walk me through when someone says, someone's watching today or they've been following us and they say, you know what, I want to do an audit. And I'm thinking to myself, this is sort of where this sounds really interesting to me because, looking at my bottom line and all these pieces you guys are talking about make sense. Where do I start?
It starts just with a casual conversation of kind of where are you at? What are your goals as a business? I think for every business, it's, hey, I want to take things to the next level, whether that next level is an IPO or whether that next level is a milestone revenue target or some sort of an exit or whatever it is. So how are you going to get there? So it's having those honest conversations. And then it's really talking about what are you doing today that's going to help you get there from a talent strategy standpoint. And quite honestly, the truth is, and I know I'm preaching to the choir with you guys, is that the conversations we have with CEOs and with leaders, when we lay out, these are all the different things that you should be doing in these three buckets. Most of them are like, I don't even know what you're talking. Like, I've never even thought of talent champions or how to make data-driven decisions, or how to make sure that the people that are vetting candidates are actually prepared and qualified to vet candidates. I would say over 90% of the people that are in an interview process that are tasked with deciding who to hire are actually not qualified to do it. It's like having a veterinarian do open heart surgery on you. It's just insane. But that's the way that corporate America works. And I mean, that's why companies struggle.
When I think we've all interviewed, right? Like when I've gone on interviews, it's like, yeah, you're going to meet with Fred, and then we might have you meet with Sally, and then, maybe Bob. So then we'll wrap up and we'll meet and then we'll get back to you. It's like, what do you mean? You made the best analogy, Scott, when you said, when I was in training, when we first met, you said about Ford, and you said, like, when you go to the Ford manufacturing plant, do they say, like, we might throw in like this part and like maybe this part and definitely this part? It's like, that's not how it really works. That's not going to come out with the same consistent product every time.
Right. That's not a process.
Right. That's not a process.
Yeah.
Yeah, it starts with process. I mean, you have to be disciplined. You have to have a process. If you don't have a process, it means you're just hoping for good things to happen. I know everybody's heard the term hope is not a strategy. If your talent strategy is, boy, I hope things work out, that's not a strategy. And that's why it's hit or miss. Like, some companies succeed, some companies fail. And, there seems to be sometimes no rhyme or reason. I think the companies that consistently do well are companies that have a really strong talent strategy, whether that's Apple or Google or startups like Adrift. They have a phenomenal talent strategy, and that's why they're successful.
We have a section called Courageous Conversations in Labs, where it talks about talking to your people and having, real open conversations with them to head off potential problems. And I think that's what we do. I mean, we do it on the recruiting arm. We do it in the labs, on the lab side. It's having real conversations about the challenges that companies are facing and what we need to do to help them get to that next level. Because we're not doing anyone a service if we're sugarcoating things or if we're not really being an advisor to them. I mean, we have to have that open conversation during that audit. Like Scott said, it starts with a conversation.
Right. So what should leadership do when they feel, like, even if you're not C-level, right? Like, what should leadership do if they're sitting here going, this really, like, I have a million comments on the side. I'm not bringing in all of them because they're not exactly pertinent to the exact second that we're talking, but we can go through them later. And I appreciate everybody commenting. It's really nice to see the audience and engaged in what we're saying and interested. But if you're not C-level and you're a manager and you're like, this is what we need to do. I mean, Ali, what do you think they should do as leadership at their company?
So everybody has a stake in their company's success. And it's challenging. It's challenging for people at all levels of leadership, from lower management to upper management, whether you're considered in the C-suite or not. It doesn't really matter. If you can't reach your goals because you're not being given the tools and the resources and the support that you need, like I said in the beginning, relative to my why, I think you have to speak up. You can speak up respectfully, but I think if you're being held to a certain standard, I mean, you can take high growth startups, for instance. You might have people in positions that are being tasked with high growth, meaning staffing and hiring, but they just don't have the tools that they need in order to do these things. It's not a weakness to say, look, I'm being tasked to hire X amount of people in these positions within the next 6 months, and I need help in order to achieve those KPIs or whatever it is that's being expected of you. We're here to partner with people. Like Scott had said, I mean, we're here to make you look good.
Right.
So, I mean, we can go in and have those conversations with you, which is what we propose as well. We'll come in as a partner with you and have those conversations with you, with the founder or the CEO or whoever it is you think you might need help making the pitch to, because it's important to your success as an individual and then ultimately your company's success. How could that fall on deaf ears?
Right.
If you're there for the greater, the greater mission.
We're believe it or not, very close to it went so fast. It always goes so fast, but we have so much more to talk about, and we'll
be back.
We'll be back to chat and talk about this. And we have some other comments. Greg chimed in, Sam Miller, another great conversation of experts. I hope leaders are listening. And Catherine McConnell, we're definitely coming back to the full show. Hi, how are you?
Catherine.
Thanks for stopping by. We appreciate it. Hopefully you learned a little bit more about SomethingNew Labs and our ninjas over here, our talent nerd, Scott, and our strategy expert.
We are a little nerdy and we're proud of it.
We're proud of it. We had a ton of fun today. We have much more to talk about next week, but thank you for joining, and everybody, peace.
Thanks, everybody.
See you guys. Have a great weekend. Thanks, guys.
Bye. Bye.